Hi, this is John Tigg. I'm the superintendent of Franklin West Supervisory Union, serving the students of Fairfax, Fletcher, and Georgia. Going to talk to you specifically Fairfax residents about class size, staffing, Act 73 information, and ultimately the results for the money that you spend on our students. So here we go. First thing I want to talk about is class size, and class size does have some mandates within Act 73 that we need to establish a minimum class size. And so just looking at our actual data and anticipated data as we move forward, next year we anticipate that we'll have 70 kindergarten students. We will have 5 sections of kindergarten, which makes the class size of 14. There is no specification in Act 73 for class size for kindergarten. However, when we get to first grade, we'll anticipate 57 students that we'll put into 3 classrooms, which would make an average class size of 19. Act 73 minimum is 10. So we're well above that Act 73 guideline. The other way to look at that is within Act 73, with a class size of 10, we could have 5 sections of first grade, and then the class sizes would be someplace in the 10 or 11, 10, 11, or yeah, 10 or 11, someplace in that range. But we don't. We choose to do it in 3. We need to, that we have the support and the classroom instruction and classroom management to be able to manage with smaller number of teachers and sections and slightly larger class sizes. And 19 are not really giant class sizes in the big scheme of things. So if you look through, in all cases, we are above the class size minimum required, and certainly could in all cases have more sections and still be compliant, but we choose to run things in an efficient manner and not try to get for the minimum class size. You'll notice the 7th grade is a pretty large group because we've got a large group from Fletcher, and that 7th grade class is pretty high numbers anyway. We're going to put those into 4 sections, maintaining our structure. Adding additional sections makes tremendous complications to the system as it is. So there'll be slightly larger classes in 7th grade, not a whole lot bigger than what we're doing in 6th grade. And again, well above the class size minimums that are required by Act 73. When we get into high school, it becomes a little more complicated talking about class sizes because our students are taking a variety of science, math, English, global citizenships. You can see PE, art, all of those content areas. And so what the state is going to do to calculate a class size is take a survey of all of our science courses, for instance, and take the number of students enrolled in those science courses, divide by the number of sections, and that will be our class size. That'll be our class size average for science. And as long as we're above the 18 that's required, we'll be all set. It eliminates APs, it eliminates courses that have specialized equipment, say an art pottery class where limited number of wheels in space might include a computer course where there's a certain number of high-end computers. So those would be eliminated as specialized equipment terminal courses. So excuse me, the highest level course that we might offer, like a calculus course, AP calculus would be reduced. So there'll be a work in progress. We'll be trying to make sure that we maximize our numbers and meet the standards. Again, high school classes, 83, 72, 72, and 57 as we're moving through. Once that 7th and 8th grade moves up, high school is going to get larger. So we've required to have 18 students per course. And that'll be a calculation based on overall enrollment in a particular content area divided by the number of sections, eliminating any exceptions. So a little more complicated, but we're on it. Our staffing ratio, again, which is the number of students that we have in the building compared to the number of staff. Staff includes teachers, paraeducators, administrators, office assistants, custodial staff, everyone in the building, with the exception of our bus drivers and our cafeteria workers, because they're not employed by us. When we look at that ratio, 936 students to 162 staff members comes out to be 5.77 to 1. For comparison, the Northeast average for pupils to staff is 5.5 to 1. So BFA is above that 5.7, above that with 5.77. We're above Vermont, not quite at the national average. And what does that actual number mean? 7.3 obviously is higher. But what I would want to point out is they're above the state average and we're above the Northeast average. So the work that we're doing, and think back to a couple of slides ago when we said we could have 5 first grade sections, but we choose to have 3. That's how we keep that staffing ratio up. And across the supervisory union, we've done that for many years. If you look, this is FY24, we're at 4.66 to 1. The state average at that point was 3.63. We are the second highest staff ratio in all of the state. The only one larger is this 5.29 in SAU 70, which is an interstate school district in the like Norwich, Hanover area. So we are on the right side of the averages. We try to do everything we can to keep our staffing and our costs to you at a good rate, and we hope it leads to good results, which we'll get into now. We can see a bunch of data about average proficiencies in the state in mathematics and in English language. You can see this chart of how we compare. Here's the graph that kind of gives you the information. This blue line that I'm tracing along here, that is our average ELA proficiency. It's again the percentage of students that are at or above proficiency. Our blue line has been climbing. The state was above us for a bit, kind of leveled off, and we've caught it and exceeded it. That's attributed to a fair amount of the work that we're doing with our younger learners in terms of improving their literacy instruction, which we'll get into a little later on. The next one you can see is the BFA Science. That's this orange line, kind of bounces up, bounces down. The state is a little more level, so we're above for a bit, dip below, dipping back above, so it's kind of a moving target. But I guess the trajectory is that we're moving in an upward direction there. Our math is another story. We are investing in professional development in math because right now we're consistently below the state average in math across BFA. So we are investing time and money in professional development regarding math instruction, and I think we're starting to see some of the progress of that in other measurements that we take, like for instance the STAR. So the STAR assessment we do 3 times a year. We get immediate feedback on where kids are struggling, and we're able to adjust our instruction to make sure that if a group of students or a single student is lacking in a particular area, we can put them in an intervention cycle and work to improve that skill. And you'll notice that we're seeing some pretty consistent increases as you go across from fall to winter. Even though this is only a 1-point increase, the actual requirement to be proficient increases. So even if we're level, we're actually showing some progress, and you can see that progress when we look at this year from fall to winter, pretty much across the way increases. Again, we're identifying in the fall where our students are lacking, and then doing the work to get them to where we need them to be. Some information about the class of 26, which is this year's graduating class. There's 60 students in the class. Their highest overall proficiency level is a 4.0, which doesn't equate necessarily to like an A++ or whatever it would have been back in the day. It indicates that this student or this group of students has met every proficiency, and so it is really based on their actual knowledge, not based on how many points they accumulated on tests and quizzes and homeworks. It's a measure of they have exceeded the actual standard in all areas across all curriculum levels. Our average proficiency level 3.2, 3 would be proficient. So on the average, we're slightly above proficient in all areas. And again, the value of this information is information collected over a 4-year period with opportunities for feedback and growth. The STAR does 3 times a year, and the VT cap that we showed is a 1 time a year. So, we see how our students are doing in the long run. We're pretty proud of where they are. Our average SAT score is 1,061, 23 test takers. We're in there. 22% of the class of 2026 took an AP exam last year. And of those 22%, 3 out of 4 of them got at least a 3 or better, which is essentially gives you college credit or the ability to skip a course in college. And 38% of our seniors took a dual enrollment class, which means that's a course that they take at BFA, but they're getting college credit at the same time. So again, get a free college credit, reduces costs for future college. That's about the end of our data. So I'm just trying to show like what your results are getting, what all the numbers are, how we get to the budget numbers that we have. That's what this video is about. You may have seen the long-term weighted average daily membership or the education funding system video. at this point. Those are also on our website if you haven't had the chance to see them. Next video will be some budget details and overview, and then the final video in the series is about the tax calculation and household impact. So how the calculations occur and what it would cost for you and your household. Want to get all these to you before February 11th. That's when early voting begins. Remember, if you or a family member will be out of town on town meeting voting day, you can request an early ballot from your town office so that you get the opportunity to vote, even though you may not be in town that day. The budget information meeting, Saturday, February 28th in the elementary school gym, just like normal. We're a second after the town. And voting day, Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Polls are open in the BFA elementary school gym for easier access from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's what we have for you. If you have questions, please reach out with email or come to a board meeting or come to that information meeting. Happy to answer questions that you have. And I thank you for taking the time to watch this video.